This is Polyamory Weekly, episode 599 for May 31st, 2021. When do I call it quits? That's coming up on today's show. Hi, y'all. I'm your host, Minx, and with me today is my co-host, Lusty Guy.
Happy and lucky to be here, as always.
And this is a reminder that this is an adult show about really lascivious things, like honesty and communication about sex and relationships. If you're under 18, please stop listening and visit scarletteen.com. I cannot wait. We are going to be in Hawaii in 9 days, and we're going to be there for 3 weeks.
In 9 days. Oh, from when this is actually released. That's hard.
Let me try that again.
No, I think we should leave that. So when you are listening to this, we'll be in Hawaii in about 9 days on the Big Island. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
So yeah, this will be the first time I've been on a plane in 15, 16 months, something like that. This will be my first plane trip. I'm kind of nervous. I think I'm going to be terrified of all the people and wearing a mask, maybe like a space helmet the whole time. But hopefully it will be worth it to get to Hawaii and breathe a little fresh air, enjoy the sunshine, get in the pool. And I am bringing our recording equipment, so we should be recording while we're there. So you don't have to go without Polyweekly just because I'm getting some sun.
So anyone who pays any attention to politics in the U.S. and around the world has to be following the most recent uprising of violence in the Palestine-Israeli conflict. And as a firm lefty and as a student of politics, I feel a certain compulsion to have something to say about this issue. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. The truth of the matter is, I haven't studied it enough to have a firm opinion, beyond the fact that I would really like the killing to stop. That I can say. But the truth of the matter is, this is not something that I have spent a lot of time studying. I'm not informed enough to have an opinion. And I think in the world of U.S. politics, it is all too rare for anyone to say, you know what? I actually don't have enough information to have a firm opinion. And that is what I am going to say about that particular war. It's gone on for so long. There's so much to know, and I don't. But I'd like to address that. If any of you listening out there can recommend a really good book going through the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict from the 1940s, late 40s?
48.
48.
It was established.
Through today, I would be much appreciative so that I can address that lack of knowledge, or at least begin the process. But what I really want to say here is, don't be afraid to say when you don't know and don't have enough information. That's the beginning of learning, not the end.
If you have feedback on that, or have a book or article to recommend, or feedback on anything that we talk about here, you can call 802-505-POLY or email polyweekly@gmail.com and attach an MP3 file with your questions or comments. If you do want to book us for anything that involves a calendar, for us to come on your show, to speak to your group, to do voiceover for your movie project, to read your audiobooks, then you need to email lustyguy@polyweekly.com with a copy to polyweekly@gmail.com. Our topic this week is from a listener, Meagan, who is queer and married to a cis man. And Meagan says they did that to fulfill family and societal expectations. However, in the past year, and this was a letter from 2019, so just keep in mind this was pre-pandemic, Meagan's husband H and Meagan moved to a new city and then started dating. A lot. Meagan writes, the past year, H has been dating and in a very kinky relationship with a woman who was a mutual friend first of both of ours. I've been dating a lot more than I ever have. We moved to a new large city 15 months ago, and it's the first time we can feel a bit anonymous and like we can meet new people freely. Previously, we've lived in conservative cultures abroad and in tiny small towns in the US. I started seeing a woman a few months ago, but it ended abruptly because I think of my own shame around being queer and his desire to meet her, which made her feel uncomfortable and have to fit into a boundary she wasn't okay with. Now I'm seeing a man that I've been having mind-blowing chemistry and sex with and feels like is filling a void of passion that it seems H and I have lost and has been lost for some time. My question: if we love each other and care for each other, but know things aren't working, when is it time to just give up? I don't think I want to be married anymore or need to radically shift how I feel about legal marriage / being a quote wife, and want to do away with the hierarchy that exists right now. He wants me as his primary partner, and anyone else is very much secondary. He needs me to commit to this, and I've struggled to give him a confident answer that yes, I want to be in this relationship no matter what. I relate more to egalitarian poly, and it makes more sense to me not to have limits on love. Marriage and being in a seemingly heterosexual mono relationship to coworkers / others has made me feel like I'm in hiding and can't be truly myself. If he chooses a lifestyle but would be fine being mono, and I identify as poly and want to continue to expand my relationships with others, are we destined to continue to hurt each other? At what point do we decide to let it go? It feels painful to let it go and separate, but it's also clear we both aren't getting our needs met as we currently stand. I've reached a point where I feel lost in such uncharted territory and so unclear on how to move forward. I'd love to hear your perspectives on ways to find peace with myself around coming out to my family and how to navigate these murky waters of uncertainty in meeting the needs of both partners. There's a whole lot in there.
Boy, isn't there, though.
Okay. Now, usually when I read the letter, you go first, but I feel kind of guilty making you go first with this. So do you still want to go first?
I don't know. Do you enjoy the guilt?
I don't mind the guilt.
Well, it's up to you. I don't mind going first.
Okay. Carry on.
All right.
All yours.
Enjoy your guilt. Again, I want to start out by saying my heart goes out to you. It is so hard to live with that level of uncertainty. And a lot of what I hear from you in terms of
unhappiness too.
Well, yes, but a lot of what I hear from you, I think that unhappiness stems from the core uncertainty that you have about yourself. I think, Meagan, and I could be wrong, it's only one letter, but I think you need to focus on your true primary relationship, and that is to say, with yourself.
Yourself, yeah.
And get some things figured out about you really firmly. I would suggest, if you're not already, getting some counseling. If you've got some shame about your identity that's undermining your relationships, you would probably be very well benefited from some good counseling time, some good introspection, some good meditation, something to help you get to the root of that shame. Furthermore, the fact that that shame exists and the fact that uncertainty about who you are exists means that you're going to be undermining any relationship you try to establish. So that your marriage doesn't feel comfortable right now and doesn't feel good to you makes total sense because you don't feel good to you right now.
Can I just interrupt and say, that's a brilliant insight that I didn't get on the first reading of this letter.
Well, I'm so glad you love me and think I'm brilliant. And because you think I'm brilliant, I think you're a genius.
No, it's really true. It was clear that a lot of her unhappiness was coming from her discomfort with her identity and her family's lack of acceptance. And you're right that she could end or not end the marriage, but it's really about how she feels about herself.
And here's the thing. Once you have gotten to a place where you feel comfortable with yourself, where you have experienced the truth of living with integrity and in harmony with your inner state, you're going to know it. There won't be much question. You may have to experiment a bit to get there. We all have to experiment a bit to get there. But when you hit it, you're going to know and you're going to like it. I'm willing to bet. So what I would suggest to you is that you take a step back and work on yourself. Get to know yourself a bit and don't distract yourself with the next relationship, the next shiny, the next whatever. If your husband, as somebody who's been with you, wants to commit to helping you through this process, as opposed to demanding that you commit to always be in a relationship, that's great. Maybe he can. Maybe that will help. Maybe not. I don't know. That's up for the two of you to decide. But until you get you figured out, nothing's going to work right. And it could be while you're in this marriage, you're not going to get you figured out. I don't know.
That's what I'm afraid of. If Meagan is really doing this level of self-exploration, it can be difficult to do that in an existing relationship that is contingent upon her current state. If her current state changes, the way Meagan feels about themselves changes, then that could change the relationship.
Well, of course. In fact, it necessarily will. It is, in fact, a test of the relationship. If the relationship is, something that everybody feels makes them better versions of themselves, and they want to contribute to making the others better versions of themselves, then that transformation is something everybody to the best of their ability will work through. If the relationship is something that's based more around ownership or fulfilling a personal selfish need or whatever, then the transformation may mean it no longer does that.
Or blind commitment. I think I read a no matter what in there, and that always makes me cringe. You don't stay with somebody no matter what. You don't stay with somebody if they beat you or beat your kids or steal all your money. No matter what is toxic.
Exactly. So again, I think you need to focus on yourself a little bit. And I can't give you what those answers are. Only you know them. But take some time to learn them. And one last thing that I will say, excuse me. You talk about how much your mother loves you, but you don't want to deal with her judgment. Now, consider that for a moment. If your mother loved you that much, she would accept you and there wouldn't be that judgment. There's something else going on there. There may be a little bit of guilt in you about how you feel about your mother. There may be a little something interesting. I don't know. But if she loves you that much, she'll get over that judgment. She will. That's what love is. We get judgy for a little while and then we realize, well, you know what? I love him and I want him anyway, so I'm going to shut my mouth. That's what love does. If your mom doesn't do that, you got things to think about. The next thing I will say is that for as scary as uncharted territory is, it is also an opportunity for optimization. When you are outside the bounds of the map, you get to draw your own. And you get to draw your own that works perfectly for you. So the light at the end of your self-exploration tunnel is the ability to create an environment that's going to make you happy. And that's a pretty cool thing. You can't get there by taking anybody else's map. You gotta go into uncharted territory. So it's a hard, scary time. I think you got a lot of self-learning to do. I wish you the best in that self-learning. And in as much as the people around you want to help and support that self-learning, bring them along. And as much as they want to hinder it, you got some thinking to do.
Now, this is where there's actually an advantage to the fact that we're answering some old emails that came in, because I'm betting that Meagan is in a different place from when they wrote this letter. So Meagan, if you're listening, and if things have changed, then please write us and let us know how things have changed. Or when you're hearing this for the first time and maybe things didn't change that much, let us know in 6 months or a year if you take our advice. Let us know how you are and how things worked out. We love when you do that.
Join the community on Facebook at facebook.com/polyweekly or Twitter at polyweekly or at cunning.minx, Instagram at cunning.minx, or now on TikTok at cunning.minx.
This week's feedback is from Yubi, who wrote in to say, I just wanted to share my thought of one aspect of your show that's been bothering me a bit. It's about dating your species. Although I respect and understand people who choose to only date polys with years of experience because that gives less chance to drama, I personally find it a bit sad that you should limit your dating to just that. Not only do you risk living in a kind of poly bubble, but it's also a kind of judgment that poly newbies or poly-curious people are not worth trying. Personally, I'm currently solo poly, but I don't think I would have been poly if I hadn't met my former partner, and I'm glad he didn't judge me because I was at the time single and not looking for anything serious. And again, I really understand people who choose to give less chance to drama by only dating experienced poly, but I find it a bit frustrating to hear you and lustyguy expressing that you should only limit yourself and others to that. That said, I hope you both took this well and your show is fucking awesome. Well, how can we not take it well when you tell us our show is fucking awesome?
Yeah, nice combo there.
There you go. Compliment sandwich. I have very little poly network, so you guys are bringing me so much help and reflection. More than once I hear a problem being explained by a listener and I have a judgment about it, and then you people talk about it and I think, oh wow, that's so much deeper than I thought, and that's such good advice. You have put lots of words to things I was feeling but couldn't explain. Thanks, Cunning.minx, for always listening and being so positive and empathetic, and thanks, lustyguy, for your excellent advice so full of emotional intelligence. Minx and Elle are very lucky to have you. You are so perfect for poly relations.
Aww.
Finally, thanks for making the show free. I have very little money, and I really appreciate being able to learn from your experience. And since you've lived in Paris, Minx, I will finish in French because I'm writing from Nantes. Merci encore pour tout et je vous souhaite une bonne fin de coronavirus. J'espère pouvoir vous croiser un jour dans ma vie. Bisous. Naomi. P.S. Savez-vous que poli et poli se disent de la même manière en français? What she's saying is that last bit was when you say poly and polite are pronounced the same in French. So when you say you're poly, it sounds like you saying that you're polite. Which I
that is kind of
that was very cool. I don't disagree with you. Every time we talk about saying date your species and that we in particular don't do poly newbies, I think that we usually do express a bit of guilt about that. And with the saying that if no one had taken a chance on us as poly newbies, we wouldn't be here. So we're grateful to the people who did take us on as inexperienced poly folks and recognize that there need to be people that do that. Otherwise, it's going to get much more incestuous than it already is. That being said, generally when we say date your species, we do mean that if you want to have less drama, it's best to date people who already identify as poly. Even if they don't have poly experience yet, it's definitely more challenging to introduce someone to the idea of polyamory and do what we call the conversion. That being said, as we always say, bless the people who have the time and patience and energy to do that.
Well, I'm going to take a little different tack. For myself, when I say that I don't date poly newbies, it's not about a desire to avoid drama. I don't date anybody that I think is going to bring drama.
That's true.
It is about a respect for the power differentials. In the same way, I wouldn't date a woman who was 19 years old now that I'm sitting at my 52-year-old perch, because it just wouldn't be fair to either of us. There's such a power differential there. It wouldn't be fun. The same is true for a poly beginner. There is such a power differential there in terms of knowledge and experience that in many ways it would be like dating a teenager. Now, having said that, I have also said for years that it's a very good thing I did not, in fact, establish a teaching career, because there's no way I would have been able to keep from fucking some co-ed at some time or another. Some beginning poly person that came along that got my motor running hard enough would get me finding ways to amend my rules, I am sure.
And if you are old enough to call a female student a co-ed, then you should not be dating.
Well, here I am. It's also the case that I never was broke in with a more experienced poly person. I started out in a non-monogamous relationship at, my young teenage years with other teenagers that were also in non-monogamous relationships. There's plenty of opportunity for new poly people to date other new poly people.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody who has been around for a while needs to feel any social responsibility to mentor the young'uns up by dating them. You can mentor the young'uns up by talking to them.
Or starting a podcast.
Say.
Just takes a little bit more time, though.
And in terms of the notion of having a silo, I interact with a lot of people besides those who I date with. I don't have a silo just because I won't date beginners, or I won't date beginners that don't turn me on enough. If they turn me on enough, I'll adjust my rules, I'm sure. But at heart, I really got to say, you like the show, you think we're smart, you're a genius. You got a great point, and I can see it, and I don't want you to think that I'm just arguing with you, because you obviously are a person of consummate taste, and so the insight has to be valid.
It's time for your Happy Poly Moment of the Week, brought to you by Fubbly polyamorists everywhere.
Do you want to read this one, just because you talked last?
Sure. I am writing to share about a happy poly surprise I experienced the other day. On my way to S&M's home, Suze is my love and Mark is her hubby, to make holiday treats with those I care most about, I used a rideshare app. I hate asking if it's their main job because it seems intrusive and lots of drivers don't like talking about it. So I asked what Sam, her, does for fun. She kind of opened up about writing children's books, but seemed a little guarded about it. I told her that I'm writing a book about society's view on free love and the double standards it's held to against monogamy. Sam says, that's called polyamory. I got to talk with her about poly, the poly relationship I've been for the last 9 years, the poly relationship she's been for the last 5, our mutual interest in the DS life, and got to make a new friend of my own species. She and her spouse moved to my town about 3 months ago and thought the small conservative community would never support poly, so she's been hesitant to attempt to make new friends here. Needless to say, I gave her my number and invited her to the discussion group I host each month and to the local geek communities, as I am a dungeon dragon, somebody living at and hosting a kinky play space. Who knew that rideshare up on the streets of Bakersfield could be a poly meetup? Scratches and loves to you both, Greedy Paul.
And Greedy Paul has been listening since the early days. And Greedy Paul it's been at least 15 years. Have you listened from the very beginning? Greedy Paul was always there. So thank you for writing that in. And my apologies. Again, this is one of the 2019 messages that got stuck in my email inbox. You can tell I'm trying to go through them now. Shout out to that person that a few weeks ago donated the $96 because we did. Our 69 with me on top. Like
Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Which is what we promise when you donate 96. Now, if you donate 69, then I get to be on the bottom. Yeah.
Well, that's not so bad.
And I'd also like to welcome to the Polyweekly Playmates. We had a new Playmate, Samuel, who joined at the $4.99 monthly subscription level.
Thank you, Samuel.
Yeah. So thanks to Samuel and Greedy Paul and Naomi and Meagan and everybody who wrote in to help make this podcast happen. We are a free resource. We have always been and will always be free. And we have helped hundreds of thousands of people navigate their introduction to and continued success with polyamory. Your donations and your earballs, yes, that's a term I actually heard in a podcast meeting, professional podcast meeting last week, help keep the podcast free for everyone both inside and outside the community. Thanks for listening with your earballs, and remember,
it's not
all about
the fucking earballs. What good does that do? Why not just say ears? Why add balls? I don't get it. That's just stupid. That's some fucking marketer that's just gone off the fucking reservation.
Can you just say the damn tagline?
I'm having my moment here. All right, are you ready? Fucking earballs.
No, I'm still laughing.
Earballs, for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ, I'm old and cranky. Earballs? What is wrong with you, child?
Thank you for your
earballs.
And remember,
it's not all about the sex.
Fuck me in the ear.
Ball.